Hey Jason, there's no sound coming in Zoom land.
You say battery operated. We have one.
Is it the very old? Been there for about 20 years. And about 20 shot that's slow. It's slow, and we times and stuff outside. We have a truck driving down, plug back. It's just that.
We're gonna keep it.
That was me. All right.
Our tech guy, see that. Oh. That was great.
Right. Is this the, yeah, and it's not echoing now. So,
Got it?
so maybe it's working.
Not hearing anything. Fill up the volume.
Dan, here's now.
You're supposed to say testing 1, 2, 3.
This one, or Jason's.
Well, no, this one is.
So you just said, no, it's okay. Yeah, there you go. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah, she can hear us. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
It's Tony.
Good. Okay. All right. So we're just gonna figure out how much comes from fiber later.
Yeah,
And then,
16,000. Figured out.
okay. All right, so I'll move this.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Thank
You
you.
can get out.
See ya.
All right. Tony, did you want to introduce Nan so we could start on that one and then um
Hello. Just gonna do a brief sort of overview and then I'll pass it off to Dan. This is more, I know the town board knows most of this, but this is more for other people that might be listening to this. So a few years ago, we did the comp plan. Then we did an audit. After the audit, the audit was done to try to make or to come up with ways that our current zoning codes did not align with the new comprehensive plan. That audit was done. The town board tasked the planning board with working on zoning, rewriting zoning and make recommendations to bring our zoning code more in line with the comprehensive plan. The planning board has been working on that with the help of the zoning advisory group, which is a group made up of the planning board and representatives from the various other town advisory boards. And we developed phase 1, which is what we're working on right now. The things in phase 1 were data centers, battery energy storage, accessory dwelling units, manufactured housing, and a whole bunch of other housing related things and definitions. So those are the things that we've been working on. Priorities we need to keep in mind from the comprehensive plan are one of the big things that came out of that was preserving Dryden's rural character, preserving green spaces and natural areas, preserving ag lands and our agricultural identity, and the development of housing and specifically. And, when you look at those things, when we're trying to keep those things in mind, sometimes these priorities kind of conflict with each other. So we have to keep those things in mind as we're working through this. We have to come up with a balance. We've already passed up recommendations related to data centers. That was already dealt with. The one that's before the town board now is conservation subdivisions section, which is what you are considering now. That's what this presentation is about tonight. We're hoping to finalize next month battery energy storage and ADU, accessory dwelling units, and possibly manufactured housing. And then after that will be the other parts of phase one, which are mostly housing related and definitions, and we'll be passing those up. So having said all that, tonight we're really just getting something about conservation subdivisions and a presentation from Nan Stolzenberg, who's our consultant that's been helping us work through all of this. And she's going to just tell us about what conservation subdivisions are and how they work and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, just checking you guys can hear me?
We can't hear Nan.
Uh-oh.
Doesn't even have a microphone button.
Can we hear anyone online? Cassie or Lauren, could you sing to us, please?
I could hear Nan perfectly.
Yeah, I'm turned on. Here, I'll send a note.
It's up over there.
There's others.
How about now?
Testing, can you hear me now?
Plus, the speakers are working,
No?
because they can hear, the other people on Zoom can hear.
The computer is hooked up to that.
Something needs to turn their sound on. Is it that the computer's sound is off? Maybe.
It's on. I turned it on. Oh, maybe it's on. Hold on.
Okay.
Mouse.
You won't go to see it.
That work?
Can you hear me now? Not yet?
It's your new sound system, everybody. So for those of you who haven't been here before, we just got this new system, which is making people at home be able to hear us, but we're on a learning curve.
All right. I don't know if that's gonna mean anything.
Can you hear me now? No.
Oh,
Hey, Lauren, can you
right now.
Can you
have
hear
Lauren
me?
try now? Or can Nan?
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
No.
Right now. Right now.
What? Now?
There we are.
We got it.
Yay. Okay. Are we all set? Okay. Now I just have to share my screen. I just want to take a few minutes to go over kind of the basics of conservation subdivision, why it's important, what it might leave you with, and how it compares to what you already have on the books right now. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to already because I made you a co-host.
Okay. Do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so the conservation subdivision is a technique that we usually apply towards major subdivisions, which are subdivisions that are 5 lots or more. So we're not talking about 1 or 2 lot splits, but the bigger parcels and the bigger number of splits. And you should think about it as a layout technique. It's oriented to where the lots and, more importantly, where the house sites within those lots are going to be situated in order to protect open space. So its primary role is to protect whatever environmental sensitivities or unique features that are located on the parcel. We do that through 50% of the parcel is expected to be permanently preserved. But the key with this is it's a technique that's called density neutral. That means that whatever number of lots in housing units you're eligible to get based on whatever zoning district you're in, you get the same number in a conservation subdivision. The conservation subdivision goes through a 4-step, a very kind of precise 4-step process to get you both the density that you're allowed with flexible setbacks and lot sizes and 50% of the open space. So when we look at, why do we do this? Oops. I don't know what that sound is here. Let me just share my screen again. All right, we're going to do it this way. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So we'll just use the smaller screen here. Sorry for that. So to get you kind of oriented to what this is trying to do is that this kind of rural landscape picture up here in the parcel pattern that you see here is the general kind of development that we see all over. We see this kind of scattered residential development with cul-de-sac roads kind of spreading out and taking up a lot of the land base. That's what we want to try and avoid. Your comprehensive plan tries to avoid something like that by having smaller lots that are more affordable and preserving what open space and farmland that you have in your rural areas that has been part of your comprehensive plan. So this is the kind of typical layout that you see in a conventional subdivision where you just, every lot is the same. You kind of punch a cul-de-sac through. And what you get over time with these conventional subdivisions is really you lose both the environmental features and the character of your landscape because they're not planned, they're not designed for the land. They're designed to create, a surveyor usually goes out, and if you're eligible for 20 homes, they lay out 20 lots and it takes up the whole parcel. So in the conservation subdivision, so this is kind of a bird's eye illustration of what a kind of typical development pattern gets. So you have a little bit of buffer around these subdivisions and pretty much everything else is lawn. So we can do a better job. In the conservation subdivision is a technique that allows us to do a better job of that. So how does it do that? So as I mentioned before, the conservation subdivision attempts to identify the critical locations, the critical environmental features, the unique features of the parcel, and preserve 50% of that land, where the housing units and the homes are then clustered on smaller lots. And this is also not just open space from a natural resource point of view, but also useful for agriculture. So the conservation subdivision comes at subdivision with designing with the land, whereas most subdivisions are really not designed with the land. They may exclude wetlands and steep slopes or ravines that you might have, but that's about it. So what we try and do with the conservation subdivision is apply a process that pays more attention to where the actual impacts of that subdivision are going to go. And that's the house, the actual site, the building envelope that's going to be disturbed, bulldozed, and built on. So the one of the hallmarks of a conservation subdivision is this 4-step process. And I'll talk in a minute about that. You have a conservation subdivision on your books now, but it does not really include this 4-step process. So it's really a kind of a precise process to maximize the best location for those house sites so that the people who are living in that subdivision can both see or have access to that open space. So the first step is where we take the time to identify what's on the parcel. And it's not just, wetland delineation or putting, the surveyor puts the stream on. It's really looking at what are the vegetation there? What are the natural habitats there? Is there a high area that's got a unique view of something? It's really lays out the steps of what we're looking for to try and preserve. The next step is very different from a conventional subdivision. The next step is you actually locate the buildable area on that parcel. So if you are eligible for 20 dwelling units, for instance, you would put 20 building sites or buildable areas on that plat in the best location to preserve that 50% open space and in a way that those folks who are buying those homes or living in those units, again, have visual or physical access to the open space. This step is really important because most subdivisions are done by putting the parcel boundary lines. Where are we going to put the lot? This kind of turns it and says, where should the building go? Because that's what's really impacting our environment. The next step is then you have all of those building locations on the site, and then you align driveways, streets, or trails. Sometimes these have sidewalks, sometimes they're trails out in the rural area. And the last step, not the first, the last step is to draw the lot lines. And those lot lines in the conservation subdivision are allowed to be, the parcel size and everything is flexible to maximize being able to put the same number of homes on that parcel in smaller clustered locations. So the conservation subdivision is the opposite of how a conventional subdivision is done. And so if we just take a minute and look at how we might go about this. So that very first step of doing an inventory and really understanding what's on the parcel is really important. So, here's an example. They identified scenic views, some steep slopes, a hayfield. There's a little creek that goes through here. There's a view of a historic barn. There's field crops. So this is an example of where they've found all sorts of interesting things that give this parcel its character. Those are the kinds of things in a conservation subdivision we want to pay attention to and protect. So the first step is to identify all of these things. And then what that leaves you with is really where are the buildable portions and where are the portions that need to be preserved. So in this example, the yellow areas are the potential building areas because that had the least amount of natural resources or unique character that we wanted to preserve. And then the green areas constitute the open space. And you note here that a conservation subdivision doesn't stuff all of the houses in one little corner. They're strategically located. So it's possible to have some smaller clusters of homes or dwelling units not in like this main area. It depends totally on what's on the parcel. So this is what you then end up with. So now you have a subdivision that again has strategically located these house sites in a way that protects all of these unique features that are on the parcel. And they've connected it with, you know, a street that goes through and created smaller lot sizes that allow for each one of these. Now these homes have again that visual or physical as a look at the open space. So comparing it to that first picture that we saw of a conventional subdivision that kind of spreads it out, which is what we call rural sprawl, the conservation subdivision ends up with this kind of stylized example where we have all that open space with clusters of homes in the strategic locations where that parcel can accept them. So the conservation subdivision is oriented to open space and to agriculture, not to low density rural sprawl, which is really what your comprehensive plan is trying to avoid. This is really one of the few techniques that allow a landowner to get the full density that they're allowed by the zoning district, and protect open space, whether it's an environmental feature or an agricultural field. And I wanted to remind everyone that your vision statement from your comprehensive plan says the town of Dryden is committed to sustainable and inclusive development. And here's the key: that preserves open space, protects its rural character, supports its agricultural heritage while improving the quality of life for current and future residents. And that's the purpose of a conservation subdivision right there. So it perfectly fits in with the goals and the vision that you have for the town. So as I mentioned, you have in Article 10 of your subdivision law already a conservation subdivision oriented section. You can do them in Dryden today, but there's big differences between what you have now and what we're proposing. Basically, the applicability of what district they're required in, and I have a little chart in a minute that will show a requirement that your current law does not require any set number of open space. It's kind of left to be decided at the time of the subdivision. And, you know, that doesn't treat everybody the same. And B, I don't know how you can, you know, what results you will end up when you don't have a target to reach for your open space. And the details, that 4-step process with how you do the site analysis, how you where you put the buildable areas, how you preserve the open space, who owns it, what happens if you have a homeowners association, what happens if you put all of the open space on one lot. There's all sorts of these things that you don't have those details for. So if you really compare what I see that what the planning board has done has improved what you already have on the books. It gives more detail and gives more direction to make sure that what you'll get in the end meets that vision and the goals, with meeting open space and rural character and agriculture. So the comparison is that right now the conservation subdivision is mandatory for major subdivision in your conservation district. The proposal before you expands that to the RA district. So it's the RA and the CV district. Your current law does not have a percentage of open space that's required. We're adding in the kind of the standard for this technique is 50%, although I can tell you that some communities have more, some communities have a little less. But in general, my experience is 50% is about where most communities try and target. Your current law has no detail on how to determine the lands to be preserved. And a big part of what you have in front of you is the details on how to do a site analysis, what we're looking for, what's important to the people in the environment in Dryden. That's what's articulated in the new section. The other one, or your current law, does not use the 4-step method, which is kind of the hallmark of a conservation subdivision. What you have before you details those 4 steps so that you get in the end what you hope to accomplish. And then this last part was where you don't really articulate the kind of open space that's important to you to be preserving and to really focus on, whereas the proposal that you have really spends time in talking about what kind of open space, what are you trying to accomplish with that? And again, it's not just protection of environmental features, but a conservation subdivision could just as easily be applied on a farm field, and a farmer wants to do some development for whatever reason. They want the money, or they want to sell the land. They don't want to use as much land. There's a million reasons, but they want to keep some of their farmland. This is a way that they can get to do that. They get the same density that the zoning allows, and they can maintain ownership of 50% of that land, or they could rent that out. Or some conservation subdivisions are really creative, and they create an open space lot for agriculture for the people who live in that subdivision. And so it kind of becomes their own little community supported agriculture. Some communities, like in Pennsylvania, you see a lot of these conservation subdivisions that are horse oriented. Everyone there has a horse, and the open space is used for trails and pastures and things like that. So it's very applicable to agricultural lands, just as easily as protecting wetlands and steep slopes and other important habitats there. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I would characterize what the planning board has offered you is a more comprehensive approach to doing a conservation subdivision. Philosophically, what you have now and what we are proposing is the same. We're not changing. You're already proposing to have a development technique that preserves open space. This proposal is, I think, does a better job of telling you how you go about doing that. So that's what I had. I'm glad to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, give me a second. Mike and Steve, how long do you guys need? Because I know you have to get over to Neptune. I need to limit everybody else. Okay, so we can do questions and things with Nan for till 6:45, and then it's cut because I have to get the fire folks in. So if you have a question or a comment or something, because a public hearing on this is next week, it's being open then, doesn't mean it's going to close. But
and I would be glad to send you this presentation if you want to put it on the town website so
Yes.
other people can see it. That would be fine.
yeah. And are you going to be on next week as well with us?
I wasn't asked to.
Yeah,
So probably not. But I could look and see if I'm open the night that you have your hearing. What night is
Okay.
it?
Okay. Craig, you had something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, we talked about this before.
Yeah, just get him out of there.
I didn't. Can you repeat that question, someone?
So Nan, we talked about this before. To be density neutral, you have to have water and sewer to the area.
No.
How are you? Well, let me finish then. So,
Yep.
so if you have 100 acres, 50 acres goes into conservation, 50 acres get built on. You need 1 to 2 acres to put a well and septic on. You're only going to end up with, 25 lots. So how do you manage that? How can that be neutral density?
That's one method. I mean, other communities allow for like a decentralized community septic system, like a package plant that would go in that would allow for a higher density. there are a variety of engineered septic systems that are used in this situation. Sometimes they're small apartment buildings rather than individual single family homes. You can, whatever the housing type that's allowed in that district is allowed in the conservation subdivision. So there are ways around that. I mean, yes, the septic,
for the mo-
individual septic could be something that could decrease the density, but you know, if you wanted a higher density, there are ways for that to be engineered. Community
Sure.
wells as well.
But you're not gonna get 100 lots on 50 acres of land.
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
Why would?
definitely not.
So it's high density, so.
No.
It's exclusionary zone.
No,
It's not.
not buying that. This is a great presentation, Nan. Really appreciate it. You heard a lot. We were hoping you would. And I just gotta say that all the things that we needed out of our comprehensive plan, I think this is one of the most salient in terms of preserving open space and a rural character. We do pass one aspect of the zoning law update. I think this is it too. Well, this is gonna get really echoey. I'll try that again. I just think this is a cornerstone of what we're trying to accomplish with our comprehensive plan update. And I think this is a way to, you know, the idea of preserving 50% of open space to me is a really exciting proposal in terms of allowing communities to have a shared space or leaving that land open for haying for our local dairy farms. And so the one question I would have for you, Anne, is Nan, has to do with the 50% that remains open. In most cases, who owns that? Who retains the rights to that property? Is it do the owners have a consortium, or does the original property owner keep the rights to the land?
It all depends on what the goals of the landowner are. It could be that they desire to maintain that open space and they maintain that as a lot that they own. Other times it's owned in common by the people on, you know, in that subdivision through a homeowners association. Other times it's attached to one lot. So you're creating a big estate lot. So someone gets the whole thing. Or sometimes it's allowed to, if you look at the text, you'll see that the open space can cross over many different lots, but they would have a deed restriction on each individual lot that would prevent them from doing further subdivision or other building on it. So there's all sorts of different ways, but someone always owns it.
So definitely on the 50% open space.
What was that? Sorry, I wasn't able to hear you. If you have some other questions before the hearing, I would be glad to get them. You can call me or email them to me and I will answer them and send them back so everybody can see, you know, hear what those are. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, yes, I see you're in the chat. Dan, yes, septic can take place in the open space.
So, oh, I think we lost it.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So my one question I have is there's been so much discussion around protecting farmland and protecting soils of importance. if from everything I'm seeing and hearing, this seems like the most powerful tool we have to protect farmlands. Am I getting the right, am I reading that right? Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes, certainly, prime farmlands, are one of the key open spaces we want to protect. Keep in mind, this is a technique that really only works for like the major subdivisions. So it's not going to address, the kind of the piecemeal 1 and 2 subdivisions that take place kind of incrementally. But yes, absolutely, it could be a very powerful technique to address, preservation of prime farmlands.
Okay, thank you.
So the other question was, can unique natural areas or wetlands count towards the 50% open space? Yes, they can. Sometimes it's written so that it excludes the wetlands because the wetlands are regulated and can't be built on anyway. So I believe I'd have to go back and look at your text, but I believe it excludes the wetlands. But other things, it's usually, prime farmland, steep slopes, significant habitats, significant natural communities, scenic views. Those are all fair game for being in the open space.
And it's really part of that discussion that happens before the planning board is the planning board kind of sets the priorities based on a, so we have in the way it's written, all these things are listed.
Right.
But when looking at a specific parcel, the planning board can really determine which things count more than others kind of thing, as we're working through them. And in our proposal, DEC wetlands, already protected wetlands do not count towards the 50% calculation. So if there's, if you got 100 acres and 20 acres of wetlands, you're really talking about 80 acres that you're going to preserve 50% of.
Okay.
The other question was how many municipalities in New York State are already doing this sort? Lots. I'd have to count them up. It's a very common technique used up and down the Hudson Valley. It was incorporated in Carolyn's zoning when they did their zoning. I'm not sure I'm just not familiar with other towns in Tompkins County, but it's a really common technique. I recommend it in all of the rural communities that I work with. So it's not new and it's not untested. It's used all over.
The other thing I would add is that in the proposal, it's being proposed that this apply in conservation and rural agricultural zones, which if you look at Dryden, that's a good chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big chunk of the land. Does not apply in other zones, although it's optional. You could use it in other zones, but it's not required in the other zones, like rural residential is an example.
How would we trigger that? How would we decide to apply it in other zones?
So we went back and forth on this because originally we had it required in rural residential, rural ag,
Right.
but that was like 88% of the land area in the town that it was applying to, and there was some pushback, especially from the housing side of things.
Mhm.
There was some pushback about applying it in that kind of area. So the proposal as we put it up is rural ag, RA, and conservation CV. We also, when I originally presented to you about it, I also offered a suggestion that there were those that think we should also require it in rural residential where the rural residential land is in a New York State designated ag district. Because ag districts and ag zones are two different things, right? We know that. So there was a suggestion that maybe we require it in rural residential where it's in an ag district, which is a subset. And I think we gave you the calculate. Yeah, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think we did give you the calculations of what those land percentages are. Yeah.
Is that language in your proposed amendment?
The
Applying
language
it.
is not.
No.
So we would add that
You
in the process.
It was offered as a suggestion that if you're working through this, and depending on what you get from the public hearing, you may get people from the ag side of things that may have some things to say, right? Or whatever. It's something you should keep in mind as a possible modification that you might make to what we sent out.
Yeah.
I think that's something we should seriously consider,
Yeah.
in my personal view.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, Nan, if there's going to be more questions, though, if you're able to hang out for 15 minutes, just so I can let the fire.
Sure, no problem.
And we can come back to it real quick.
Okay.
So Mike, so we're going to table this for a second and let Mike and Steve kind of fill us in on the fire district work that's been going on, because they and the couple of work guys on the work group have to get over to Neptune and meet with them about this as well.
So just to kind of bring you up to speed, I think you all learned a great deal about fire districts from the presentation that Corning gave, so I'm not going to reinvent that wheel for you, but just to kind of catch you up as to where we are, we've been holding meetings like this with the Freeville Village Board. We're meeting here tonight, and we're doing a presentation for the Dryden Village Board next week. We've also been meeting with all of the fire departments just to bring them up to speed and listening to their thoughts and concerns. So as far as the schedule goes, I think there was a joint decision from the working committee that we are not going to be able to pull this off to form a fire district in 2026 in time for them to form a budget. We're looking at forming it as early as possible in 2027. And so that when we appoint commissioners, they have a full year to get things organized before they have to run for reelection in December of 2027. What will that mean in terms of budgets? That's going to mean that we're going to need to do, the departments are going to need to do individual budgets for the 2027 year. Although we're going to see what cost savings we can pull together in order to make that more palatable to the municipalities. Currently, right now, the next step would be a joint meeting of the two villages and this board on September 10th in order to vote on whether or not to hold a public hearing. If the vote was positive, then the public hearing, we're anticipating holding that on October 1. And then that would be followed by a vote by each of the boards, the two village boards and this board, and that vote would have to determine basically three things: whether all of the persons and properties within the proposed fire district are benefited by the formation of a fire district. Two would be whether there's anyone who is not benefited by it, who is within the fire district. And three would be whether it's in the public interest to form a fire district. And that third one is kind of the key one. If that vote is positive, then there is a 30-day that gets published and published in your newspapers of general circulation. It has to be posted in at least 5 prominent places in each of the villages and town. And as a permissive referendum, if there's no objection, if no one files a properly formatted petition within that 30 days, then a certified copy of the resolution goes to the county clerk, and it also goes to the comptroller. And when the comptroller signs off on it, it's considered you've created a fire district. Thereafter, the fire commissioners would be in charge of the district going forward. Some of the issues that the departments have brought to our attention that they've been concerned about is what happens to the reserve funds that they currently have, because they have all identified as one of their big concerns is that they have traditionally set aside money to buy apparatus and equipment rather than borrowing money. And legally, they would have two choices. They could hang on to those reserve funds and presumably put them towards new apparatus and equipment, or they could turn them over to the fire district once the fire district established reserve funds. Eventually, the fire district will control all the reserve funds and will have to come up with joint replacement plans for the high ticket items for each of the departments. Currently, we anticipate the budgetary process for the fire district of operating in terms of 3 individual budgets for each of the 3 departments, and then combining those into a single fire district budget. That would include obviously their operating costs, but also their costs of providing volunteer firefighter benefit coverage for each of the members, the cost of insurance. That would be a joint expenses because it's obviously more cost effective to insure a lot of stuff than individual departments. And then there have been concerns raised about how the command structure would work and whether they would still be answering to their chiefs. Our concept is that there will be individual chiefs for each of the 3 departments. They'll have their own command structure. One difference that we have pointed out to them is that when they vote for a chief with a fire district, the Board of Fire Commissioners will be now approving the chief, assistant chiefs. But our belief is that the 3 departments are working together very well at the moment, and there's no reason to change that. Eventually, we can see areas where they could work even more closely together, but there's no plan to come in here and make a radical change to how things are organized. We are committed to them keeping their own identities that they have operated under for years.
Awesome.
Anything?
Oh, sure. That is a great summation of everything that's been going on here. So the commissioners would be appointed this year, if I heard you right, and they would serve as appointees for 2027, and then in late 27 December, we'd have an election, and the first slate of elected commissioners would go in.
Correct. So the way that works is the combination of villages and towns appoints 5 commissioners.
Yeah.
And they serve for that first full year. And in December of 27, they would have to run for reelection, and it would be open for anyone else to run. But the way that creates a staggered slate or a staggered elections is that the commissioner who gets the most votes gets elected for 5 years, 4th most for 4 years, 3rd most for 3 years, 2nd most for 2 years, and the guy who comes in last gets a 1-year term. And that creates an automatic staggering, so you're not electing a whole bunch of commissioners at once.
But we could have a fire district created once the Office of State Comptroller approves this process.
Correct.
And we would effectively have a fire district come January 1st that would be operating off budgets that we have
Correct.
contracted through the town as we traditionally have for 27.
Correct. And my concept is that we would put a clause in those contracts allowing them to be assigned to the fire district. Mm-hmm. So the fire district would assume control of those contracts once it was officially in place.
So what is your best recommendation for resolving the reserve fund issue? I mean, the pooling or maintaining separate reserve funds. How should we go about that?
I think that the fire departments have done a pretty good job. If they've been paying cash for their apparatus for years, that shows certainly a fiscal responsibility towards their own reserve funds. So my concept would be let you maintain your reserve funds with the understanding that when you've gone through them, then that's it. You can't continue to have your own reserve funds. And so that we're going to need to rely to a certain extent on them to say, okay, well, we have X number of dollars that we've been saving for an engine. We thought that we would have enough money 3 years hence to buy a new engine. So long as you put money into the district reserve fund to make up that difference, we will contribute our reserve fund towards that new engine. That's my concept. Obviously, that's going to require a certain amount of cooperation. And I guess the other component that goes along with that is what happens to their stuff, right? So now they own their apparatus, they own their firehouses. That they're allowed to give that to the fire district. They're allowed to sell that to the fire district for $1. Sometimes fire departments have a fire station and they say to themselves, you know what, we're sick and tired of unclogging toilets and fixing roofs, and we're going to sign the whole thing over to the fire district and let them worry about it. Other times I have negotiated leases for the fire district to lease the firehouse, the physical firehouse from the district for the fire department. So those are things that are going to be probably worked out on a department by department basis, depending on the buy-in from the membership. The apparatus, I think, that's going to continue to be owned by them until it's replaced, and anything new that gets purchased is going to be owned by the fire district. And that seems to be what works out the best in other places where I've done this. So.
Great.
I'll just ask one more question. It sounds like the town's role in settling some of these assets is fairly limited in this process. We basically vote to create a fire district. We don't weigh in on redistribution of assets. That will be done by the fire commissioners and the individual departments. Will there be MOUs or some sort of written understanding of how the management of assets?
There will have to be some writing of some sort that will get signed off on, so that A, everybody knows what's going to happen, and B, nobody can change their mind, and C, if the governing board of the executive board of the fire department changes, then the whole deal doesn't change with a new group of people. So that's my concept anyhow, and I think it's the working group's concept, is we need to create something that's going to have continuity and continue into the future.
Actually, one last question.
Sure.
How would you frame the difference in reserve funds between, you don't have to get into individual numbers, but are there some departments with much bigger reserve funds than others? And
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I would assume they are, and it probably relates to when the last time they replaced a piece of apparatus. So I mean, it's sort of been, I mean, I'm a member in Tully. We have always set money aside, so our reserve fund goes up and up and up and up, and then it falls off a cliff when we buy a new piece of apparatus. So, and there have been members of our community that have come to our public hearing on our budget and said, why do you bonding is cheap money. Why are you putting money aside? And our response to that has always been, we would rather earn money on our savings than pay interest on a loan. As a fire district, we can participate in the New York class investment plan, and that has a pretty good return rate historically. So I think the district would do quite well on the reserve funds.
Okay.
So the only question I have is for timing. So you said the joint meeting would be September 10th. Do we need to have any separate meetings prior to that so I thought there was talking about Rick authorizing the working group.
The working is meeting again on August 26th at Barnum. I think the thing that this group needs to do is make sure that the agenda correctly identifies the joint town and villages meeting, and then sets up this room for two separate municipal entities to also be here. be part of this. So that's gonna be something that, we don't wanna get pushed aside. I don't know how you do that, but I mean, the
Yeah, we have-
big enough, but Dryden's gonna host. We had anticipated Dryden would host the town of Dryden, or the joint town and villages meeting, and then the public hearing on October 1st as well.
All right, but prior to the 10th, we don't need to have a separate meeting to like authorize working group or anything like that. Okay.
But when you said there's a vote by the individual boards after October 1st, is that a vote at their regular meetings or do we vote on October 1st?
I would say that it was intended that they would vote it after that public hearing.
That
So,
day,
yeah.
on the 1st. So we would meet, we'd caucus or whatever, we'd break out and
Correct.
Village of Dryden, Village
The
Freeville.
public hearing would be
town.
opened, they would conduct the public hearing, it would be closed, and then the different boards would go into their sessions. And we would obviously have the resolution would be the same for each entity to vote on. The
Okay.
language would be the same.
Would be fairly fast, I would
Correct.
imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, this is amazing work. The working group has been fantastic, and I just want to commend everyone that the 9 members of that group for putting in time to take on this issue. And
We have 3 here tonight too. So.
yeah, we do. It's an amazing group.
All right, thank you.
A little thing. Did we already have the time of day on October 1st? Well,
I mean, I think
We like 6 o'clock, I would imagine.
okay,
We do it.
just making sure it's not 2 and I'm, okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, well done.
Okay, Nan, we can go back, and I don't know who, I mean, Doug, did the rest of them, did Evan and them stick around or? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll just move the abstract. I forgot about that part. It's like I guess we gotta pay people, right? I mean,
We have to vote.
gotta do, yeah, we have to vote next.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yeah, we're not gonna. All right.
So, okay, so I'll just add something for make sure we all know the pending project on Ed Hill. The developer has already agreed to follow this, even though it's not the current law. Everyone knows that. Okay, great.
Okay. And Evan, did you have anything you wanted to ask Nan about or Nancy or anybody else? And even if it's something for her to come back to us, and like she said, if you contact her, that way she can look it up now. Yeah. For Nan, I mean, you should have her email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so shocked wanted to say something.
Yeah. Evan? Yeah. Yeah, because that way everybody can hear you better, I think.
I know that this is dealing with conservation ag subdivision. And one of the things that, we've been concerned about is this is how to put houses in an ag area. But for the most part, farmers would prefer the houses not be in an ag area. They don't want the residential on the other side of the hedgerow. And most people that build a nice house don't want to be on the other side of a field that's getting manure spread onto it either. So how do we, and I know we're not dealing with that in this, but somewhere along the way, the town of Dryden needs to decide where they do want housing to be located.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And that really gets at density and your zoning districts. And if you look at a smart growth kind of perspective, yeah, we want to direct the highest density to those areas that have the infrastructure and the ability to handle that growth and not in the agricultural areas. So that's an important consideration that the conservation subdivision isn't going to get at. Those are different kinds of policy questions for the town to grapple with.
Right.
So yeah, I mean this you're right. I mean, just like development now, when you have houses backing up against farmland, you have issues. And we don't, that's not ideal in the big picture, but the conservation subdivision is better than a conventional subdivision that uses up the whole parcel of land.
Correct. Correct.
So what you're bringing up, Nan, correct me if I'm wrong, is those are things that are coming that we haven't gotten to
We
yet.
haven't got to yet. Yeah.
Right, right.
But I know
And
it's
you
not
know,
going to
and
be
the-
all together in one group, but that would be nice if it was. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And
Yeah.
I do agree that I think that that we should have the conservation and ag subdivision laws included in the rural residential areas that are within an ag district as well, because there are lots of open fields that are being currently used in those areas, even though they're, whether they're rented or owned, they happen to be in, that zoned area.
Mhm.
And the issue that you bring up is very complex because on one hand you can direct higher density growth to certain areas, hamlets, villages, village boundaries, or other districts, and then we run into issues of large landowners that want to sell their property, and then they feel that we've taken away their building rights and the opportunity for economic benefits that way. So this is all a balancing. We're trying to balance. We're going to have to try and balance things. And for where we're at now, the conservation subdivision, I think, does a really good job of balancing those things. You're going to have to grab, when we get into the density and the districts and where housing should go, those are complex and difficult questions and policies to grapple with. And your comprehensive plan addressed a lot of those.
Another area of concern is that these are restrictive rules for putting housing into conservation into ag areas. But our committee kind of felt that if there is going to be an ag subdivision, that there ought to be a density bonus. And we did see that it is written in here about a density bonus, but the formula for creating what the bonus is, we couldn't figure that one out.
Yeah, I
And you're
think the way
probably not
it's
there yet. Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
it's written
Still
is
working
that
on that one.
the way
Yeah.
it's written is that the density bonus could be part of a conservation subdivision, and some communities do incentivize that by offering a density bonus. But again, that's kind of the next phase. So that's
Still down the road.
right. Yeah, I think density bonuses have a lot of, they give you a lot of opportunities to get things done. But we're not, the committee isn't there yet.
Defining density bonuses is going to be that's a piece we still have to do. But one of the things that you bring up that I think is interesting, we've already reviewed the area and bulk table, which talks about density within the various zones. And I'm wondering, and I hate to say this because I don't want to go backwards, but I'm wondering if we should look at the ag area, the area and bulk table for ag, because what you're talking about is density within agricultural districts. But then the other thing we have to take into consideration here, as Nan mentioned, is landowner rights, and do we really want the town telling people that they can't subdivide, that you own this land, you can't subdivide it, or you can't do certain things with it. And I know many have always been opposed to that kind of
Right.
regulation. Right.
Left brain and right brain within each individual member of the committee is the
Right.
for, and again.
We want to preserve it.
We want to
Yeah.
let the farmer do with his.
With this land, what they want to do now. The other thing I would point out is the comprehensive plan talks about putting the greatest density near the hamlets and the villages and those kind of things. I'll point out that if you look at the zoning map, the village of Trident is surrounded by rural ag, right? So
Yeah.
rural ag comes right up to the village lines. So you have an issue.
I've got fields that are within the village.
Correct. So that's the other thing to think about. We talk about, and again, there's all this thing about this balancing act, right? Is because we talked about building around where the infrastructure is and building around the villages and the hamlets. But if you look at the village of Dryden specifically, it's not so bad in Freeville. It's a little different in Freeville, the village of Freeville, and around Varna. But if you look at the village of Dryden specifically, rural ag zones, it literally surrounds the village of Dryden and comes
The
right
30 miles speed limit sign.
Yeah, it literally surrounds. So then how do you, if we need to figure out how to balance that, because if you think about where we're saying we want the development, well, there's rural ag that's in that area that we say we want development. There's a bunch of it that isn't, but there's also some that is. So those are the kind of things we need to balance and look into.
That would be on sewer and water too, if it's right around the village.
It would be, yeah. So there's.
So
yeah,
we
there's
could
those
have
kind of things to it.
density
Yeah.
beyond 1 acre.
And I mean, I think as you get near the NICEAG area around the light industrial zone, I think there's rural ag and conservation around that as well. There's 100 and some odd acres that's just, what would that be, east of?
Yeah, it's just east of NICEAG on the opposite side of the road.
It's been identified as an area we want to develop.
Yeah.
But that's also in rural ag, you know what I mean? So it's so those are the kind of things that we have to sort of try to balance in all of this.
Yeah, because the other area that's similar is gonna be near the Hanshaw Village area, because we're running that
Right.
sewer line and a water line's gonna go out there too. And
Exactly right.
there is a large parcel, but I think that might be owned by Cornell.
Right. And I don't think the conservation subdivision piece, in the things that you brought up, I don't think that piece directly, because it's really, as Nan said, it's really density neutral. Whatever the density we decide is acceptable for rural ag, that's what a conservation subdivision gets. And maybe you do a density bonus, so you get the density bonus, that's another discussion. Right. But it's not going to address the issue of conservation subdivisions are not going to address the issue of putting a subdivision next to a big farm, right? Where you have houses being built next to a, 1,000 head cattle barn. or something, right?
It doesn't address it, but it does more to protect the land than anything else we have right now.
You can do it.
Yeah, you could put the open space between the houses and the farm.
Correct. You can use the conservation subdivision layout process to put more buffers. Whereas if you were doing a traditional subdivision, you could literally have houses across the street from this big barn, right?
The other side of the fence.
Yeah, the other side of the fence. With the conservation subdivision process, you could use that green space to put much greater buffers between like if you use the Ed Hill Road example, Trillium Wood can be a buffer between the houses and the farm, right? Those kind of things. So that's really the thing.
It won't absorb the smells.
I live in
Buyer beware.
I live in neighborhood residential zone completely surrounded, that's in a New York State Ag District, completely surrounded by a dairy farm. So Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and but it's the thing you deal with if you live in an ag district, right?
Yeah.
It's
So as long as you understand that when
Yep.
you are,
Yep.
you know, if you've grown up there, you lived there for years and you understand that,
Yep.
you know, that the hay's gonna get mowed on Thursday, the manure's gonna get spread on the field on Friday, and you are planning a picnic on Saturday. Ugh.
Oh, well.
been there, yep. Yep, no, I get it, and but you're right, it's people who, hopefully, people who live in an ag district understand that they're in an ag district and understand what that means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you learn pretty quick that cows visit your yard and, you know, manure makes things green.
What we can't do is set it up to discriminate against people in our, moving into our community. That's
Oh,
not the intent of it.
You can't, and, you know, I kind of get what Craig was saying about exclusionary zoning, I don't consider this exclusionary zoning, but but I get what he's saying in that, you know, if you make the land, if you make the lots too big or too expensive or whatever, you know, those kind of things, you're gonna exclude certain people from being able to build on them or to purchase them, right? So but on the other hand, do you really want to allow in a rural ag district, somebody to take 100 acres and put 52 acre lots on it? You know, you know,
No, we can't allow that.
sure you do, right? And it's so that's kind of the balancing act.
Right.
we're talking
I
about.
guess I'm having a little trouble seeing the exclusionary zoning aspect of this. If we're,
Like I said, I kind of disagree with that. Well, what he's saying is that you have 100 acres. If you were to do it, if you were divided into 50 2-acre lots or 101 acre lots, right? This doesn't allow you to do that. You have to reserve 50%, so you're gonna have to reserve 50, which means you can only put 50 1-acre lots or 25 2-acre lots on this property, which may be a smaller number than what the district would allow you to put, or the zone, say district, ag district and ag zone are two different things.
Unless you do some sort of multifamily, you know, like small
unless you
units that have like 4 units. Because remember, the density is the number of units, not the number of lots.
Correct, not the number of lots. That's absolutely right.
but the likelihood of a affordable single lot house broadly goes up with this model because the smaller lot size would imply smaller houses on single acre lots as opposed to one house on a 10-acre lot. Or
Depends.
Well, so if you want, the idea is you have 100 acres. You're talking about 1-acre lots. In theory, you could sell 100, but I think our Balkan area table doesn't allow that anyway, so you couldn't get 100. But let's say it allowed 50. You need to reserve 50% of the land. So now you're talking about 50 acres, right? So again, what he's trying to say is it makes the cost of that land go up because the developer can't build on the other 50 acres.
Well, that's not necessarily.
It's not necessarily.
That's not necessarily true.
But
It's an assumption, but if you look at how these things have been done in other places and you're putting in walking trails and shared pastures for the horses and all these other things, that adds a lot of value to someone moving into that location. So
to a developer can also add cost.
yeah.
Right. So if you think about affordable housing, some of those things could, so some of these things kind of push against each other. You know what I mean? And that's really the challenge in all of this. That's really complicated is figuring out the balance of where we go. I think the conservation subdivision piece that we've presented to you, I think it is a really good balanced proposal.
Yeah.
Could it be tweaked? Yeah, maybe it could go one way or another. You know, maybe we should, you know, allow less green space or more green, you know, whatever it is. But I think it's we really, I think at the committee and talking through it, I think there was a lot of effort put into trying to come up with a balance. And I think Nan, really a lot of her proposals really were, I think, spot on. But again, that's, you know, really I guess, for you all to decide.
I think it really embodies the broad goals that we had when we started this process. I really do. When we talked about how do we reduce these multiple small lots that are just encroaching on the vistas in the rural areas in this town. How do we, what we're doing isn't working, basically, and how do we get a better model in place?
And in these areas where we have, like I mentioned before, these areas, especially around the Village of Dryden, where you have these areas that are where rural ag really comes right up in some cases into the village. Those areas doing conservation subdivision. So you do the building on the village side, you put the building lots on the village side of that larger lot and the green space on the other side. It kind of helps, lets you do that development out into the rural ag, but still keep the feel, the look, the character, right, is kind of the idea.
I just want to bring up one thing, just, as you're thinking about the text that you've been given, is that there's a reason why it was recommended that these be mandatory. Is we have probably 25 years of history of these things being voluntary, and they're never done. They're just, people just, because it does take more thought and work to do that site analysis, and it's not like send your surveyor out and find 50 lots. So it doesn't happen. Voluntary, it doesn't happen. And the only way it might happen is if you gave significant density bonuses to incentivize making it happen. But I think that, planners have kind of decided, and we've experienced over a long time, that the only way to make this happen is if you make it happen.
Right. Right. That's why I would recommend it beyond conservation. Currently, our current law is required in conservation only. Conservation. The proposal is that the
Move to rural agriculture.
Yeah. Okay.
Technical question. You mentioned about multifamily dwellings. So if you had a 4-unit building on a 2-acre lot, would they not require a larger septic system, and it should be a 4-acre lot?
I don't think it needs to be 4 acres.
Or 3 or something. It's going to need to be.
So the other thing that happens in our zoning is we have density defined in the zoning, but then there's density that gets defined by the health department.
Right.
Meaning
Which would be defined by the health department, which, we were talking about family units or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay.
A 4-unit, so I can think of some areas where this happens. Deibler Drive comes up to mind, where he has a bunch of 2, 3, 4. I think there's even a 5-unit building on those properties, and they all have individual septic systems. But they're on. I don't think for 4. I guess I'd have to look up health department regulations, but I don't think you need to go to 4 acres. But you're right, it could. But
it depends on the percolation.
Depends on the soil and all of that, right? So there's a lot of variables that go into that. I don't think we're gonna be able to identify, or we're not gonna be able to address those in the zoning. It's really gonna be, the zoning is gonna tell you what the maximum is you can do in that area. It may be less than that when you find out what the soil type is and you're talking about septic systems, right? So that's but you're right, you could put a 4-unit on there. Duplexes generally don't require a whole lot more of a septic system than a single family home does. So you could put a duplex on a 2-acre lot, and then you can get 50 dwelling units and 25 2-acre lots, right? But just an idea, right? But
Do you think we'd revisit the zoning map itself in the second phase?
At some point, I think we need to.
I think we do.
This process. It's not part of phase 1.
No, phase 2.
But I think that is something that we need to do, is look at the zoning map itself, because that we haven't even looked at that. Other than to know where the zones are now, we really haven't looked at that from the idea of, are the zones really where they should be?
100%.
Yeah, you have to, I think you have to do that. That's, at some point you have to.
At some point in this project, we have to. Where exactly that is, I think we still need to determine that.
It's not gonna be this year.
It's not gonna be phase one, right?
No, I think it's the phase 3. I don't know.
Well, if things go according to plan, I'd like to see us at least get all of phase 1 presented to the town board before the end of the year.
Agreed.
That's kind of.
Yeah.
I'd like to, whether or not we'll make it, I don't know. I mean, really, if you looked at our original timeline, we're quite a ways way over it, but that's, I mean, I don't want to rush things either, because, so I think it would be nice to get all of phase 1 in, I think we'll have the major parts of it,
Yeah.
but it would be nice if we get it all up to the town board before the end of the year.
I think we have a broad consensus of what we want to do with the battery energy storage system
I think
component. And we can't.
Battery energy storage at this next meeting, which will be the first week of September.
Mhm.
We've already been through ADUs, I think. And we're working on manufactured housing. So I think that hopefully we can get through that in the next meeting or two, which would be major pieces we could put up. And then, even if, we still got a few months that we can, there's still a few months left in the year. It's only August. I can be hopeful, can't I?
Pumpkin spice is just beginning to come out.
Yeah. But
Oh, no.
I know November and December get tricky because, meeting
Budget.
schedules get all funky with all the holidays.
And it's budget season.
What's that?
And it's budget season.
And it's budget season, so we'll have to see.
But again, those are largely outlined already, so it's not a heavy lift. And with the battery energy stuff, that's a live wire. But we have projects that are looking all over the state right now, and we should have what we want on the books.
And that the court case that was just decided has now made battery storage public utilities.
Okay.
It's a new wrinkle.
So more deference to the state because of that, Nan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's just like, solar facilities and battery storage facilities are now public utilities.
That means, level 2, right, are the ones that would come under
Type 2.
Yep. A
Does
tier
that mean where
2.
tier 2,
Tier 2.
which are defined as bigger than
600 I forget if it's kilowatt hours.
I think it's 600 kilowatts.
Kilowatt hours, yeah.
I think it is. So there's it's based on kilowatt output. So over a certain size, they're tier 2. Tier 2 are what are considered
600? I mean, my car's got an 85 kilowatt battery.
as well.
It's only 600 kilowatts. That's not a large size.
It's not big. Well, but it's bigger than what you have for residential.
Yeah. It's basically the difference between commercial and residential.
I'm not 100% sure what the cutoffs are, but
The 600 sounds small. I mean, I would say
Around 0.
yeah, probably because you could stack 600 worth and something about as shorter than this whatever you want to call this thing. Yeah. So
maybe it's 6,000.
I don't think so.
yeah, it's gotta be bigger.
It might have been megawatt hours. I don't know, not 600 megawatt.
that would
I think
make
it was
more
kilowatt.
sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, kilowatts would be too small.
Yeah, we'll verify that, but we can verify that. But There is a.
Yeah, because I need a permit for my car. I'm gonna be
Whatever
like
it is,
pissed.
there's a set. Tier 1 and tier 2.
No, it's 600. No, 600 is up less than or equal to 600 kilowatt is best one.
And that comes directly
And
from the
best
state
two is
model.
greater than 600
Oh,
kilowatt.
600, okay.
Yeah, that comes from the
I'd be
state
second guessing
model.
myself, sorry.
600?
Yeah.
That's not big.
No, it's not.
No, I mean, that's,
I've got a 7 kilowatt.
and so are they preempting town zoning on 600 kilowatts?
You can run a house on it.
No, they're not preempting zoning, but so the state has a model battery energy storage law that it is a proponent of. What I did is I took that and modeled what you are looking at from, not entirely, but from the large part of what the state model is. The new rule about that they're public utilities means that there is a lower standard for variances and use in area variances for a public utility. So it'll be very difficult, and I don't know if you want to, but it'll be very difficult to say no battery storage. Because I would imagine that your zoning now, where you have a line for utilities, it's allowed in every zoning district. So it's going to be very difficult to say no, but you can still ask for special use permits and site plans for them. So
Which can
communities
have
that are trying to
setbacks.
prohibit them are going to have more trouble.
Right,
Okay.
right. We can still put setbacks and all those kind of things in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? Because we have the folks from Insero have been patiently waiting
Okay.
for an hour past when I thought we'd get to them.
All right, I'll sign off then.
All right.
See you, Nan.
Thank you.
Did you say you're signing off? Nan?
Oh no, Chuck's I think he has something more to.
I just, this isn't a question, it's a comment. I wanted to thank you since I was at the previous town board meeting. I had asked that this kind of a presentation be made, and I hope it was illuminating for all of us. It certainly was for me, so I want to thank you. And I want to go back to a point that you made as you talked about the vision statement and went through your slides tonight. You know, the very fact that 50% of the land in the major subdivisions is what we're currently looking at in the proposed revised law. That really interests me, not only because it allows us, according to our comprehensive plan, to do a lot of open space and conservation protection. That's wonderful. But that other 50% really is heavily about housing. And you didn't emphasize that very much in your presentation, but what Evan said and what Tony said, and I think we're all thinking about what then happens as we cluster housing. And it sounded to me like you believe that more homes or the same number of homes on smaller lots is likely to yield more affordable housing. The clustering itself, because of the infrastructure, less roads, building advantages, and all of those other things, tend to be advantageous to the developer. And some of that price or cost savings can be passed on to owners of those houses on the other 50%. And I guess the point I wanted to make, and I hope that you, the town board, will think about this as you not only we go through the public hearing, but as Tony has said, there's certain things that will come along later in the work that we do in ZAG, and that is I hope that we don't leave the housing factor, and especially the affordable housing component of conservation subdivisions to just the fact that we're clustering and that maybe we're going to get advantages out of that. In fact, the early research on conservation subdivisions didn't confirm that. The prices went up because of the amenities, that those smaller houses on smaller lots were now available to them. Those prices didn't drop. And so in the vision statement, if we're talking and other values, which we are, it's really important to ask the question about density bonuses. And I know that's something that's going to come along later, but in the case of the town of Hamilton, which I mentioned when I expressed interest in you making this presentation, you really spoke to this issue of density bonuses and how there might be significant increases so that it wasn't density neutral. I'm not sure that density neutrality is a good thing from a housing standpoint. I would actually like to see density bonuses help us augment the number of incentives to developers to do more housing that really do drop the price. So that's a comment. If you want to respond to it, that'd be wonderful. Or as we go down the road in our ZAG work, we'll get to it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you're right that the conservation subdivision is oriented to open space, not towards affordable housing. It can promote affordable housing. I think the density bonuses in what Hamilton did, and other communities do that too. I think to incentivize by giving a density bonus for providing some percentage of those units as dedicated affordable units is certainly something that is got to be in the mix of at least the discussion. And the only reason it hasn't happened is because we're in this phase one and we haven't talked about it yet and haven't moved on that yet.
Good. I'm glad that's the only reason it hasn't happened.
As far as I'm concerned, it has. I mean, that's why.
Well, I hope we get there in our town as well. I think there's various ways to enjoy more affordable housing as part of this pretty significant legal change in our subdivision legislation now brought into our zoning code 270. So thank you, Nan.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Hey, Doug. It's
I won't take long. I want to commend Nan for an excellent presentation. It really made this subdivision issue crystal clear to all of us, and so many issues have been addressed, and it's clear they're very complicated and sometimes conflicting. And I just would like to speak to the agriculture issue for a second and say that as we go, if this goes forward, agriculture will need a champion on the board of people who make the decisions, because I can see it being lower on the priorities than the other issues for many of the reasons we discussed tonight. Just more complicated to put in working farm than it is for putting all the other amenities we talked about. That's really.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Doug. All right. I think we're all set. Thank you, Nan.
Okay, thank you. If
Thanks,
you have
Tom.
other questions, just let me know.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for
Okay.
the tech support too.
Okay, sure. All right. Now
All
I'll
right.
sign off.
Yep.
All right, good night.
All
Okay,
right.
good night.
Now, good. Thanks, Cleveland. Yeah. So this is a presentation about the audit, the yearly audit we do. So, let me-
So do I have the ability to share my screen?
yep, you do now.
Okay, excellent. Oh. So let me know when you all can see the executive summary.
Yep.
Perfect. So I am Evan Cleveland, audit partner with Inserone Company CPAs, here to present the results of the 2025 audit. I'm just going to cover the executive summary and then I'll open it up for any questions if you guys have any questions on any of the other audit documents that were provided. So we are issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. It's the technical term for a clean opinion. It's the best opinion you can get. It means your assets, liabilities, net position, revenues, and expenses are all fairly stated in all material respects. We also perform an audit under government auditing standards. And this is a report on internal control or financial reporting that we issue. Also, unmodified opinion, we had no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses or non-compliance to report within that letter. We do issue a management comment letter. This letter did have one other matter noted associated with accounts payable, just regarding pulling back accruals of accounts payable for some of the capital projects that are happening. Not a significant finding. It was reported as an other matter. Then we also perform an audit of the federal award programs required by uniform guidance. So if you spend over $1 million in federal awards, you're required to have a uniform guidance single audit. So total federal expenditures were a little over $3 million. And we tested the COVID capital projects grant. That was $2.4 million of that $3 million. And within that report, we also had an unmodified opinion. No material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance to report regarding the federal programs. We also issue a communication letter. It's to those charged with governance at the conclusion of the audit. We're required to communicate certain things at the conclusion of our audit, and we do so through a specific letter. This had no comments of concern regarding any of the items that are bulleted. One thing that I will mention, there was a new accounting standard that was implemented this year, is GASB statement number 102, certain risk disclosures. This just added more disclosures if there were any significant revenue concentrations or resource constraints that would have a significant impact on a municipality, and there were none that met all the criteria for a disclosure under the standard. Just to briefly cover some of the numbers, I know we're almost half a year past half a year past December 31st, 2025. But total assets at that point were 3.8 million. Majority of that is within receivables. They did go up about $500,000 from the previous year. Most of that was associated with timing of reimbursements. See, there was sort of a flip-flop between cash and receivables in 23 to 24 and 25. A lot of that is due from other funds. So a lot of the general fund cash and resources were used for the broadband project to get that started. So a lot of that is owed back to the general fund ultimately. At the bottom, we have total liabilities of 412,000. So slight decrease, very consistent with prior year. Within that other liabilities category, a lot of that is due from other funds. So timing when general fund reimburses other funds. So it was about 315,000. Total fund balance was 3.4 million. And that did go up about 575,000. So that's based on revenues over expenditures. It's split into 4 categories. Non-spendable is your prepaid expenses. So those have already been expended. They're split out as they're used in future years. Restricted is a lot of your capital reserves. Assigned is appropriated for next year's budget, so what you plan on using in fund balance. Then unassigned is your residual fund balance, so that was 2.9 million. So general fund revenues, end of the year at 3.6 million. That went up about 268,000. A lot of that increase is associated with the tax levy, so that went up about 153,000. And then there was also cannabis tax revenue within the other category that was about 70,000. So that makes up the majority of the increase in revenue. Then total expenditures went up about $48,000. Had some fluctuations within a few categories. General government went down quite a bit. There were some large equipment purchases last year, and then employee benefits sort of offset that increase or that decrease in general government. Health insurance premiums are up about 116,000. These have just gone up exponentially for most governments, and it's continuing to happen into 2026 for a lot of them. And then at the bottom, we have our other governmental funds. So just a few that I'll point out. Capital Projects Fund that did reduce quite a bit. A lot of that was use of local sources for water projects. That'll end up becoming positive again once short-term financing is converted to long-term financing. And then proprietary funds, this had quite a significant change over the last 3 years. This is where your broadband project lives. A lot of those expenditures are being capitalized into construction in progress, and they'll start to be depreciated once everything is placed into service. So that caused a significant increase within that fund. So these are a couple pie charts to show your significant sources of revenue. So this is at the government-wide basis. It's all of your funds combined with your long-term assets and liabilities. Fairly consistent year over year. The majority of the revenue for the town is real property taxes. It did go down a tiny bit, offset by an increase in operating and capital grants. So a few more grants associated with water projects and community development block grant in 2025. Similarly, expenses, these are all your funds combined with your long-term assets and liabilities. Again, very consistent year over year for the majority of the categories. So transportation still makes up a significant portion. And then you see there's quite a jump in home and community services. So that's where the water project and CDBG program lives. So a slight increase in that category. So as I mentioned earlier, the town adopted GASB statement number 102. There was no material impact on the financial statements. There are a few coming up next year for December 31st, 2026. We're starting to implement these for June 30 year-end clients. 103 is going to be a significant change for us as auditors. There's a few changes, most notably ones associated with the management's discussion and analysis. So that is the first many number of pages within the main financial report. Focuses on making the financial report more user-friendly, understandable for first-time financial statement users. It adds a lot more descriptions on the financial statements themselves and changes year over year. And this also adds more disclosures regarding any budgetary variances. Then statement number 104, this one just updates disclosures for capital assets and leased assets for the most part. Overall, the audit went very well with the positive audit opinion and no significant findings noted. We really appreciate all of Amanda's efforts. We asked for her to provide us with a lot of things associated with the audit, and we really appreciate all of her efforts. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions?
It's amazing.
What happens to this? What happens to the audit now? Do we submit this to the comptroller?
Yeah.
So you guys approve it, and we get a management representation letter that's signed. It basically says that we've been provided everything that we needed to perform the audit. Then we finalize the audit and submit it to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse for the federal awards. So that is due. It's the lesser of 30 days after issuance of the audit report or September 30th. So that will assist with the submission process as well.
Okay, so it goes on record with a federal database that
Yes.
makes us look better for grants.
And
Yes.
also for bond ratings too.
Correct.
For
Yes.
bond ratings, and for that, we do have to send it to comptroller to ask for the final audit
Yeah.
to be sent to them in addition to the annual report that we submit individually, that we prepare in-house. So after it's approved by the town board next week, there'll be a resolution next week for you to approve this audit reports. They'll finalize it, and yes, it'll get submitted to various spots as required.
So even though they are not, we're not required to do an audit every year, but
Well, because we are over the $1 million of federal funds, we are required to have a federal single audit done. So then to do that, they need to do Evan, it's easiest to just get a full audit done
Yeah.
also at the same time, because it's kind of in conjunction at the same time.
Yes, because of
Well,
the
that
number
I
of federal programs that you have, we need to do a full financial statement audit as well as the federal award audit.
yeah, I understand the federal component, but the comptroller does not require municipal audits.
No.
It does
But-
not require it. No.
But they like seeing them.
I think it's probably
If I understand this right.
probably nice for them that they know somebody else is looking closer than what they look at.
That's great.
Yeah. And it's smart that we do them anyhow.
Yeah.
Because public deserves to know. Yeah.
I learn every year. As much as Evan says I'm doing a great job, every year I learn something new. Every year I think I got it this year. And every year they come back, well, can you do it this way next time? So I learn every year from them through this process and to improve our financial reports and for me to understand better. So it's a combination of learning, but also proper reporting.
And this is a more complex town than most. It's a broadband project. And your relationship with the town of Caroline, a lot more complex than most towns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're active.
I feel like we should apologize, but we're just trying to do stuff.
No, it's a challenging audit, and I enjoy it.
I apologize for us every year.
Apologize to Amanda.
Yeah. Poor Evan lost a staff member, so you know he's really had to step up. So
Okay.
Oh, great.
Evan, thank you. Sorry for the delay.
No, it's all good. Thank you, Amanda.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Or one day I'll get the technical thing 100%.
Call the meeting.
So, no additional questions associated with the audit, and I'm good to hop off.
Yeah, we're all set. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. And then we can go into the resolution sprint.
There's more.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just go to share screen and just start putting them up. All right, so this first one is to appoint the planning administrative assistant. So move to appoint Kelly Henry, position of administrative assistant 2 with start date July. Well, you already started. So
Second.
Yeah.
July 27th.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. And then the next one is authorizing me to sign an onboarding subscription contract with NeoGov, and this is for personnel documents processing,
It's
essentially.
gonna help. I could easily online process. I can send a new employee like, hey, please fill out all these forms. And they don't have to write that. And it's not I don't have to print them a pack of 80 pages. They can do it all online. They don't have to write their name and address 15 times. They can do it once and it fills in for the next one. They'll also provide for just good checklists. It gets to the payroll clerk. We also use NeoGov for all those lovely trainings that you all just love. But this is an additional. We don't pay for that subscription. That comes from our insurance, but this would be additional. Just looking for ways to improve timing and processing. This was one of the things I found.
So it'd be about 4,800 a year going forward.
Yes.
Whether we have new employees or not.
I mean, basically, like, as soon as we set it up, or this year it's less, obviously, because it's a partial year, but then 2027 for a full year. So as we add employees, especially summer camp, it's
Okay.
And that's like when I'm adding 16 employees and then, you know, some of them are hires, it's a couple days of time for me. So not days, at least 2 or 3 days of tracking all the documents. Did they turn them in? What did they finish? What do I got to go ask them questions on? What's their handwriting like? Because I can't read the for an eye.
Got it.
All of those pieces, it's just going to save some of that back and forth that I have to track down.
Okay, I'll move it.
Second. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, next one, so first one's, there's a couple for Dryden Fiber. This one's for construction change order authorization. For there's the, mobile home park. Is this one of the Cook ones, I think,
This is Pleasant.
or something?
Pleasant.
But it's over on Southworth Road, so it's near
Yes,
Dryden
Southworth
Lake.
Road.
Nice. He sent me an email.
And I believe this is MIP.
And I need to set, yeah, it's in the MIP area. It needs for setting poles. So that would, there must not be any within the park area, so I'll move this.
I'll second.
Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 Yes. Another change order authorization regarding splicing locations. It's based on, I guess when they got out there, they found the distance from the road requires some other equipment, so. It's for a total of, 62,500. For the Caroline MIP area, Dryden MIP, non-MIP, and Freeville MIP, non-MIP.
And these are estimates, we just should say.
Yeah.
They've gone out and scoped out a lot. It's just.
So that not to exceed then, or,
I don't think it should be not to exceed. I didn't include that.
yeah, so I mean, if we just amend the end of it to say that overall increase not to exceed 62,500.
Make an adjustment. And there's, could be some that are less than some.
Yeah. Well, that way, if they need more, they gotta come back, so.
But this is 7C that we're talking about? Resolution 7C?
Let's see. Let me see.
7D.
Yeah.
Okay, but we haven't done C yet.
Yeah, we did.
We
Oh, no.
We just
Okay,
did C,
all right.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's 3 different
They
detailed
look very
docs.
similar. All right.
Do we want to slow them down to the not to exceed?
Yeah, there's one resolution and then there's just 3 pages of
Okay.
It's just
description.
The change orders had to be separated by contract, but I did the resolution.
Okay.
We don't.
Yeah,
I just want to
so-
make sure because I know what time
So the end,
restrictions there.
so, yeah, so at the last paragraph, instead of it saying with an overall increase of 62,500, say not to exceed instead of the of.
Yes, thank you for making that change.
Yeah, I'll move that. Or you
Second.
moved it.
Yeah, I moved it with the.
Then I'll second.
Yeah.
Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 Yes. This next one, it's E7E, approved purchase of materials for Dryden Fiber. These are routers.
These are, I'm pretty sure these are replacing plumes, what we used to use for plumes.
Yeah, you mean yeah, they were within the customer's home, yeah. So for 576 units.
I'll move that one.
Second,
Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 yes. All right, next one's to authorize Dryden Fiber Executive Director to sign make ready, move authorization agreements with Point Broadband. And so it'll allow our contractors to move Point Broadband fiber when we're doing make ready. Which make ready just means moving other company's wires so that we can fit ours onto the pole. So move that.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. The next one, another Dryden Fibers to appropriate an additional 32,500 for payment to the easement acquisition specialist to continue acquiring easements for construction in the Dryden Fiber operating area. There's 429 parcels that we in total need. This is a not to exceed a total of 65,000 without additional authorization. And
I'll move that one.
Second.
Yes.
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 yes. And then this, so the next thing up, fine, non-Dryden Fiber is, this is for to approve the Village of Dryden Code Enforcement Agreement. So, as everybody knows, we just renew this yearly. Based on the amount of work we do too. So I just need authorization from the board to sign it.
This is based on their fiscal year, right?
The what?
This is based on their fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoops.
Yeah, I'll move that.
I'll second.
I have a comment. We are facing a short, of hours in the code enforcement to do the work in our own town. By providing a substantial number of hours, to the village. One of our code enforcers actually, is not really doing a full-time job in our own town. Okay, so I will pass this along, but at the same time, I want the board, the town board, to think about the possibility of expanding our human resource in that particular unit.
Yeah.
Code enforcement.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% with what we're seeing. I also recognize the safety value it brings to the community, so.
And this almost pays for a salary.
What was that?
This almost pays for a salary.
Yeah.
It's 53.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
But so.
How did we come up with that amount?
What was that?
How did we come up with that amount? Is that
They
like,
bases it on the amount of hours and that we're putting in. And the thing is, me and Amanda were talking earlier, when Ezra Village starts, that's gonna be a whole other thing. So the village, we're gonna probably have to remind them that they're gonna need to get the developer potentially to contribute towards somebody who's gonna be dedicated to doing that. Cause I know that's happened in other towns when they have large projects, like Ithaca, for instance, with the Maplewood project years ago, they had the developer pay for a code enforcement person. So.
Yep.
And that was I think that's a 900 unit development anyway, which is just like what Ezra Village is, even though they're talking about building it slower, but there's still other things happening.
Sure.
So, we're gonna have to, and they're either gonna get it from them, but we're gonna be, if they're gonna have us do their code enforcement, then we're gonna be asking for it anyway.
Yeah.
So, at some point, whoever's mayor of the village is gonna have to figure that out. You already moved it, right?
Yeah, I'll
Yep.
move it.
Yeah.
We have a move.
There's a move in a second, and now we need a vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. This is a resolution to dispose of outdated equipment. That's for the copier. So I'll move this.
Second.
Can we do the office space thing with this one though?
But you got a funny stapler or something you want to get out?
Well, someone will get a red stapler at the end. But before we do that, you haven't seen Office Space? Dan, you've seen Office Space.
I don't know what you're talking.
Dan,
Movie?
seriously?
No, I have not seen the movie.
We're gonna have a Dryden Town Board movie night.
Put it right up there.
I'd like to see it. I'm struggling
You know.
with the issue myself. My other job.
All right. Jason, Christina, second.
Yep.
All right. So Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 Yes. Oh, man, now I really want to play the clip. Put it into the meeting, but you know.
Enter it into the minutes.
Missing a lot of work lately.
That'd be awesome. Anyway, all right. Next one is I guess in order to apply for a county grant.
County tourism grant.
Yeah, so we need to approve a diversity, equity, inclusion statement. So Dan had
Yeah, I think
put this
everyone
together
seen
with
this
me.
already. It seemed consistent with other statements that I've seen. It's some go into definitions, but I think at this point, diversity is pretty well defined, and equity and inclusion, you have to be living under a rock not to have seen the definitions, and you know, we're overdue in having something like this established. So I would say that going forward, we want to include this in the employee manual and have the resolution sent out to town employees.
Yep.
As we discussed, or as I emailed about.
Should the statement also be on email footers?
Excuse me?
Should the statement also be on email footers? I think I remember that coming up before.
I've not seen, I mean,
Or does it just simply say we're an equal
I
opportunity.
think that's an issue for, we don't
Yeah.
decide right now. I think let's just get this established as our statement and we can decide
Okay.
other applications of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know I did it for mine. I think everyone did it anyway. A very small one. You already should see on the bottom of emails because we had to do that
Yeah.
for I think the federal grants. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it seems like a worthwhile use of it.
I have one comment.
Yep.
I appreciate the diversity statement a lot, and I like it that it's short and sweet, you know. But one of the things that usually sort of come to my mind is that as we sort of say that we are a welcoming community and to ethnicities and disability, and then we say that we have, you know, appreciation of distinct traits, stories, and talents. The problem for me is that usually fluency is not stated as an important also diversity principle. And thinking of ethnicity, and ethnicity comes with different languages, right? And thinking of disability, for example, language for blind, I think fluency deserves also recognition in a statement where we are saying different fluencies add to the richness of our environment here. And not only that, but many of the stories, talents, the skills are expressed in a different, in a different language. So I like to put it somewhere here that, as part of the different things of distinct, maybe possessive distinct fluency, traits, stories, and so forth. By the way, many of the stories are also expressed in a different language. And the appreciation for that is an important, I guess, inclusive statement.
So would you say after stories, add fluency,
Well,
and talents that deserve respect?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So, I move that we add fluencies, plural, after stories,
Yeah.
followed by a comma, and then and talents that deserve respect.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a
I'll second that.
good addition.
Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 Yes. Right, and the next thing, so this is this next one is for the sewer plant. It's another amendment to the there's ongoing capital projects there because the plant needs serious upgrades. Just due to age, but also whenever we're talking about increasing housing, it's all gonna fall on this sewer plant primarily. We're 2% owners, we're gonna be buying more capacity just to accommodate additional development in the combined sewer district. And if there's gonna be any extensions even beyond the Hanshaw Village, we're gonna need that capacity, so. In any case, right now, our share of this is pretty small in comparison. There's a small chart at the end. Just looking for what page. But so that's anyway, this amendment, because yeah, it's on page on the PDF, it's the second to last 36. This adds all the services for I guess basically finally getting to design and the construction and such. So it's now raising the total contract to 4.4 million. It previously was at 487 as they were doing different functions.
All right, and our percentage of this is 2%.
It doesn't mean like, you know, when these projects get going, the combined sewer district, they're the ones who have to pay for the share of this, not the rest of the town. But they're gonna have probably beginning, it'll be, I would say the 2028 tax bill, they're gonna have probably their first assessment on you know, the capital improvements in their property tax bills in quite a long time. Because, but, you know, it's just not really avoidable because some of these repairs are just, like I said, because of age, but the other things that are more significant are because of what DEC is requiring as part of all these upgrades and things, but to deal with the outflow to the lake and dealing with all the like phosphorus and other things. So we're trying to keep that down well below the original quoted amount, the top end, but that's going to take some wrangling with DEC for a while. So yeah, I'll move this so that I can sign it, and then this project can, this stuff can get going because the other towns had, Ithaca already voted on it last week, and I believe the city did as well.
I'll second.
Vargas Mendez?
Yes.
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 Yes. And this next one is to introduce just this year's version of the local law to override the tax levy cap. The public hearing for this would be I think September 10. Yeah.
And this is a just in case we need to.
Well, September 17, sorry, not the 10th. We would just do it the 17th. Yeah, because the 10th is when we're doing that joint meeting with everybody about fire. So we'll do it the 17th. Yeah, so 17th at 6:05. Then just showing the notice of the public hearing for next week for the conservation subdivision stuff. And what else? And then I know like it's not official till tomorrow. I didn't have it on the agenda, but we got it next week, I think. At the very end of the meeting, talk about how we're gonna do like an interview or whatever process to appoint a justice, because Chris, his official resignation from the court date is tomorrow. So we're gonna have, and because everything changed, there's not an election for that this year. There'll be an election next year, but we need to at some point to interview whoever's interested. It's 3 people.
Did we post it?
I'm gonna think we should post it and then do those in September over the course of the month.
To appoint the person.
No, to do the interviews. Like Jules is ready here. He's ready to run the court on his own through the end of the year. So we're not in a hurry for it, but once we know how many interviews, like people who are interested, come forward, then we'll schedule. So I'd like to be able to post it at least by the last week of this month, and then leave it out for like 2-3 weeks before we start scheduling interviews.
Yeah.
So we'll post the availability and people will contact us if they're interested.
Yeah, that's what
we'll, as a board, we'll interview them.
Yeah.
And appoint them at the earliest what date?
I mean, I would say.
I know, but at the earliest, I'm asking.
I mean, I don't think we'd be ready to appoint anybody till October. And then depending on like if you're appointing someone who's an attorney, then yeah, they can start right away. If you appoint somebody who's not, they have to take classes before they can sit as a justice. So I think that's 6 weeks or something.
So realistically, January 1st.
Well, yeah, depending on who gets appointed.
If we have somebody who's not already a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, they could probably start, like if we did the appointment in October, and I don't know when those classes are, so that's another thing. It's possible they could start in December. While they're waiting, they can always sit at Jules's court and stuff, or other courts around, because I know this has gone on in other towns, frequently the justice who got appointed will sit in on different courts and go to the cap court and all that, and just to do that while they're taking the class too.
We should ask Mike Lane when he wants to start.
I think we already did, and he said no.
We're recruiting you for justice.
But that's what I think. So I just would want to be able to post it. I don't know if I know we did a similar thing one the year Jules ended up getting appointed. Sure, I can find what we did then, because it's going to just be on the server somewhere. Otherwise, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to ask us about? Because I know
citizens privilege.
Yeah, it's Mike's privilege. It's Mike's night anyway.
Only, and you folks may already know this, but I read yesterday morning in the journal about Natan Hoffman having passed away.
Hmm.
Do you
Wow.
folks, do you remember Natan when he was
Yeah.
very active in the village? He was hugely active in the Varner Fire Department,
Yeah.
particularly after his tragedy in his family when his son was killed. And after that, he wanted to be part of the emergency response. He did a lot with that until he had medical problems that caused him horrible pain. But he was a good guy. There's nothing there. It says there's no services locally because most of his family was out in California. But I just think it ought to be on the record that we noted that he was a good guy here in the town and he's passed away.
Yeah. And I remember going
Yeah.
over to his house and stuff, seeing him just when I was doing
Yeah.
doors and whatever.
Since you were talking sewers,
Yeah.
back in the 80s, I chaired what was called the Dryden Wastewater Study Commission. And we studied sewers for Freeville, Etna, the Dryden Enterprise area north of the village, the upgrade at that time of the Dryden Village sewer plant that was already in existence, and Yellow Barn Road. We looked at all of that. I wish we had a town board like this then that would have said yes. Take a look at building sewers in some of these other places. We could have built then sewers in Etna, for example, for less than it would have cost to build them in Freeville. And at that time, there was 87.5% federal and state funding for the sewers.
Those are the days.
It was amazing. But that didn't happen. But Freeville did it because they were very anxious to get sewers in Freeville. Move forward to the mid-2000s. I made an effort going to the towns and the two villages saying that what we really need is a joint sewer plant. And I still think we do.
Sure.
And something to just put a bee in your bonnet about that. That's all I want to say. They all kind of said, well, Freeville said, well, we don't have any trouble. Our plant's fine. Dryden wanted to build its own plant by itself, and the town didn't seem to be interested in doing anything at that point. But I would say there remains an opportunity for those three units to work together, probably to be built somewhere in the Georgian Republic area, not in Georgian Republic, but in that area, on the upper side of the creek, or maybe somewhere else. But if you want to be able to provide safe water and sewer, you've got to have the municipalities involved with that, and it will help you build housing on lots if they can get water and sewer. That's all I would
So
say.
that's very timely because we just appointed a sewer and water task force.
Good for you. That's good.
Yeah.
So that's precisely, I'm going to ask them
Sometime
to
if I could
reach
be-
out to you.
If I can be helped to
Provide some
suggest
detail.
anything, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well,
Right,
let's
good.
create a sewer and water authority, the Dryden Sewer and Water Authority, and we can bond and borrow and build a $40 million plant.
More utilities.
Well, something to look forward about.
That's what,
Methane
Good.
capture and have a power plant. It'll be great.
well, if we're all self-sufficient here, then we can build a wall and make Groton pay for it.
Yes.
I have to get a dig in sometime every meeting.
Send our food.
Not on Groton. They're actually doing all right.
Have the discharge into the Wasco Inlet that goes through Groton.
No, we don't want to do that to Groton. I mean, they got a new supervisor. She's nice. She's good.
All right.
Yep, we're all set. Thank you, folks. Greatest show on earth.
Break up here. We need to